I arrived several minutes early, and good thing I did, because the restaurant is not exactly easy to find. Inconspicuously located on a small street in Modena's ornate city center. Had there not been a gold plaque elegantly engraved with the words Osteria Francescana, I would have assumed it was just your average upscale Modenese apartment building. I stand before the entrance. The ominous gray door towers over me like the monolith from 2001: A Space Odyssey. Intimidating to say the least. The door is heavy and slowly creaks open.
Bring your imagination to life with inspiring stories of an incredible and very real world.
You never know what's around the next corner.
In 2015, I packed up my oversized camera bag and lugged my way over to Europe for the second time as a solo traveler. This time, I was prepared with all the gear imaginable, after making some amateur mistakes on my previous trip. No more would I leave things up to chance. I wanted to control the narrative, perhaps a little bit too much. I had it all planned out, making stops in England, Ireland, Portugal, Austria, and Italy. Finally, it would reach its climax once I arrived in Modena, Italy. Prior to my departure, I registered on the waiting list for the number 2 restaurant at the time, Osteria Francescana. This food mecca in Modena, Italy has since been awarded the number 1 restaurant for the second time in 3 years. Despite its 3 Michelin stars, this was right before its meteoric rise to fame, before Chef's Table and well before Masters of None. I had the right level of hubris and youthful ignorance to believe I would get a seat at this sanctuary of culinary brilliance. To enhance my luck, I picked a random Thursday in early October. Not exactly peak tourist time. I also joined their waiting list 4 months in advance, well before I even bought my plane ticket. Surely I'd get a call eventually, right? Equipped with my camera gear and a checklist of food recommendations, I made my way over to Europe, filled with nervous excitement, but prepared for the wonders that waited for me. Fast forward a few weeks, and by late September, I was meandering through Italy by way of train, stopping in Milano, Cinque Terre, Firenze, and Roma. But the crescendo of my trip was to be expected after I arrived in Bologna. I spent a few days in this wonderful food city. Eating so much tortellini and brodo, I can only imagine I must have been sweating soup broth in the late summer heat. Delicious as it was all about what was waiting for me in the neighboring city of Modena. The day was upon me. I shot out of bed in the morning like a cannon. My hopeful reservations not until 12:30, but you never know with Italian trains. So I figured I would err on the side of caution and arrive early. Outside my bed and breakfast, the skies looked menacing like witch's brew. But the nasty weather wasn't going to ruin what I had planned for months. Umbrella in hand, with camera around my neck, I departed Bologna on my way to Modena. Modena is a beautiful little city in the heart of Italy's most revered food region, Emilia-Romagna, famous for its sports cars and balsamic vinegar. More on that later. On the train, I began to daydream of the incredibly intricate dishes found at Osteria Francescana. Like their 5 ages of Parmigiano Reggiano, an apparently sublime dish plated with different textures and temperatures of the famed cheese. Finally coming to, I had to stop myself from licking the window. I peer out through droplets of rain as Modena's train station comes into view. Giddy with anticipation, I made a beeline straight from the train station over to the restaurant. I arrived several minutes early, and good thing I did, because the restaurant is not exactly easy to find. Inconspicuously located on a small street in Modena's ornate city center. Had there not been a gold plaque elegantly engraved with the words Osteria Francescana, I would have assumed it was just your average upscale Modenese apartment building. I stand before the entrance. The ominous gray door towers over me like the monolith from 2001: A Space Odyssey. Intimidating to say the least. The door is heavy and slowly creaks open. Shadowy figures illuminate before my eyes. Suddenly, I'm greeted by big smiles and lovely Italian voices. The moment I've been waiting for. Parli Italiano? Asked the hostess. Sì, parlo un poco, I replied. Immediately sensing my American accent, the hostess switches to English despite my intentions to speak Italian. The hostess asks for my name while another attentive staff member takes my coat. She looks down at her list and doesn't see any Eric Party of One. I say, well, I was on the waiting list for months, but never received a call. I thought, maybe there's a chance you could fit me in? No, I'm afraid not. We have no cancellations today, she explains. But I'm coming all the way from New York to film your restaurant, I reply. No, I'm sorry, it's just not possible, sir. It's also my birthday. Niente. Nothing worked. I tried everything. As my failed attempts grew in number, so did the staff, crowding the lobby, wondering who is this strange man from New York? The staff let me down easy, apologizing incessantly. My jacket returned to me as I'm slowly ushered out the door. Apologies ringing past me, but their words are deafening. The door is promptly shut behind me. It starts to pour again, and I'm completely alone on this little Italian street, thousands of miles from home. It was like something out of a movie, more like a Coen brothers than Spielberg, seeing as how this story wasn't going to have a happy ending, or so I thought. Feeling pretty defeated, I walk hopelessly down the cobblestone street, turning the first corner I see, looking for safe haven from the rain. I come across a man standing under an awning in front of a restaurant called Ristorante L'Incontro, which means the meeting, a fitting name, I must say. The man pulls the cigarette away from his mouth and looks at me and my rain-soaked camera and says, "Are you hungry?" I reply, "Yes, I'm starving." I later learn he's the owner of this restaurant. I explain to him my failed attempts to dine at Francescana, and the look on his face, like he was my guardian angel, destined to improve my day. He would stop at nothing to change my misfortune. As I'm seated, I notice I'm the only customer. The full waitstaff attentive to me. Even the chef comes out to greet me with excitement. As if he was Caravaggio, commissioned by the church to produce a work of art of godly proportions, challenged to blow my mind after hearing of my misfortune. Pouring me a glass of local wine, the waiter asks if he can make some suggestions off the menu, ensuring that my experience is the best it can be. For the first course, I'm served a piping hot bowl of tortellini and brodo. As soon as the broth hits my tongue, my worries begin to melt away. It's a soul-warming elixir. The best I've had in Italy. I can still remember how it tasted to this day. Then it was on to the second course, tagliata all'aceto balsamico, sliced steak in a red wine balsamic vinegar reduction, served with roasted potatoes. Not the prettiest of dishes. In what I can only describe, looked like zombie guts, something you'd expect to find on the set of The Walking Dead. It didn't rival a gorgeous plated entree like you could expect at Francescana, but food doesn't need to be a beauty contest. What matters most is the taste, and wow, was this dish sublime. The velvety concoction is made with authentic balsamic vinegar, or aceto balsamico. More on that in just a moment. For dessert, I order a chocolate cake with mascarpone custard, a decadent treat to finish off an incredible meal. After dessert, I connect to the restaurant's Wi-Fi. As I swipe down to refresh my email, up pops a message from Marcello, confirming our interview at Acciaieria di Giorgio, a family home producing traditional aceto balsamico, one of the very best in Modena. All of a sudden, this day went from bad to great to amazing. I had been back and forth with Marcello for weeks to see if I could stop by to sample and learn about the family process of making authentic aceto balsamico. Marcello is the son-in-law of Giorgio, the owner. He informed me that although Giorgio and his wife would not be home, he, however, would be thrilled to step in to speak on their behalf. Marcello had been groomed for many years, studying the delicious dark arts. With a full stomach and a happy face, I had a new lease on life. I hop in a cab over to Osteria di Giorgio. I arrive at the family home. I'm greeted warmly by Marcello as he takes me upstairs to the Acetaia, the attic where the aceto balsamico is aged. About a dozen batteries fill up the perimeter of the room, these barrels maturing for a minimum of 12 years, some as old as 100 years. It's a small operation turning out razor-sharp controlled product to ensure of its outstanding quality. Marcello proceeds to explain the process of making aceto balsamico, a fascinating technique that takes a lot of patience and craftsmanship. Unlike winemaking that require a stable climate underground, the maturing process of aceto balsamico actually benefits from fluctuating temperatures between the seasons. Heat promotes fermentation, and the cold allows for rest and maturation. As it ages, the moisture evaporates, further thickening the vinegar and concentrating the complex flavors. This spellbinding syrup is so revered in Modena that it's protected by the Italian government, confirmed by a DOP marking on the bottle, or Denominazione di Origine Protetta. Aceto balsamico from Modena is light years above the fake crap you get in everyday supermarkets back home. Once you go authentic, you'll never go back. Marcello had me sample the various ages and flavors, all with a unique taste. It depends on how long it's been maturing and what type of wood the barrel is made of. I'm blown away after each sample, one after the next: juniper, chestnut, oak, and cherry. Aged 12 years, 25 years, and one that's been aged for over 100 years. I get all my shots in, and the footage looks great. As a sign of gratitude, Marcello gifts me one of the family's most prized products, an aged aceto balsamico called Carlotta 1986. Started at the birth of Giorgio's daughter, aged almost 30 years with a wonderful cherry flavor. I buy a few bottles for my family back home as Christmas was looming. This was an incredible day. I was treated like family at both the restaurant and at the Acetaia. A truly unique Italian experience. Looking back, I'm glad I didn't manage to get a seat at Osteria Francescana, for I wouldn't have learned a valuable life lesson. As the cliché goes, when one door closes, another opens. It's a story about disappointment and good fortune in the end. You never know where life will lead you. Leave yourself open to new experiences, and you'll find life to be that much more fulfilling. That's my travel story. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for joining us on another audio adventure right here at Wandertale, the travel podcast community. Subscribe to our channel to stay tuned for more travel stories from around the world and share tales with the open-minded, the brave, and the curious.